Darren Till versus Dricus Du Plessis is a massive middleweight fight on the main card of UFC 282, Blachowicz versus Ankalaev. It's a huge matchup in the middleweight division, and it's very important for the career of Darren Till, the career of Dricus Du Plessis, and more importantly, the future of the middleweight division, because again, we've got another one of these types of matchups. We just saw this with Hermansson versus Dolidze, where you've got one guy in Hermansson or Darren Till who's fought the top names in the middleweight division and lost to the majority of them, and you've also got an up-and-coming hungry contender in Roman Dolidze, but in this case Dricus Du Plessis, who's trying to take their spot and get some movement going on and some change up of the roster in the top 10 of the middleweight division. I'm really looking forward to this one. I think it's a really good matchup for Darren Till. Still going to pick him to lose though. I'm at that point now in Darren Till's career. It's a good matchup for Darren Till. I'm still picking him to lose. I'm still picking him to lose. It's a good matchup until Dricus Du Plessis changes the way he wants to fight this fight. I guarantee you, he's going to go out there in round one, charge forward, very, very drunkenly, I want to say, like Derek Brunson, but somehow worse, but somehow a little bit more dangerous, because he's still got that athleticism and power that maybe Brunson has lost a little bit as he's gotten a little bit older. But he's very Brunsonish in the way that he rushes forward early on the feet, and I do believe that Darren Till is going to catch him coming in with some really good counter shots. But is there any evidence to suggest that Darren Till's going to put him out cold when he rushes in like that? No. I don't see Darren Till dropping him really badly. Maybe I could see him getting a knockdown in the early rounds and landing as Du Plessis comes rushing in, but I don't see him finishing Du Plessis. And I can see Du Plessis, sorry, I need to pronounce his name correctly here. I can see Du Plessis finishing Darren Till. And I just can't see Darren Till getting a finish on Du Plessis. And that finishing potential goes a long way, especially in these higher weight classes, like middleweight, like heavyweight, and also heavyweight as well. And I just think it will give Dricus Du Plessis chances to get away with making mistakes. But I think if Darren Till makes a mistake, he's either going to get knocked out cold, or what I really think is going to happen is he's going to get submitted on the ground. And a lot of people are giving me some backlash for this opinion, and anyone I see talking about this matchup, all they're talking about is the stand-up of Du Plessis and the stand-up of Darren Till, and some people are justifying a prediction of Darren Till because of it. Du Plessis can grapple, and he does, but he doesn't do it on his, like, A game. Like, it's not his plan A, sorry. It's not his plan A to go out there and grapple. He wants to go out there, get a big KO in the first round, and score a wicked victory immediately into a fight. And that's his plan A. But then what happens is, a lot of the times in Du Plessis' fights, is he has a rough first round, and then decides, you know what, I can grapple. I'm going to grapple, and I'm going to change the way this fight looks. He didn't do that against Brad Tavares, because Brad Tavares has got phenomenal takedown defense, but Du Plessis still tried to take him down 7 times in that fight and didn't get one of them. Was ended up on top at one point in that fight. He did end up on top at one point in that fight and had some control time, but Tavares eventually got back up and even ended up on top in the first round as well. But what I'm saying is, Du Plessis is not one of these strikers that's never going to take it to the ground like Darren Till. He will shoot a takedown if he's not getting his own way on the feet. Simple as that. We saw against Brad Tavares, he couldn't get it to the ground, so he ended up just sort of like just throwing everything he had at Brad Tavares in round 2 and 3 to try and get that round, try and get things back in his favor, and he eventually did so and showed amazing cardio to keep scrapping as the fight went on. But when you look at his fights against like Trevin Giles, which I was watching recently, Giles was landing some good shots early on. Du Plessis was landing good shots as well. Like, it wasn't like he was easily losing on the feet early on. In fact, he outlanded Giles in both rounds, 14-6 in round 1 and 11-4 in round 2. Yet still, because he wasn't getting his own way and wasn't finding that KO blow in round 1, he shot those takedowns and he got the control time and he had a submission attempt. And then Trevin Giles ended up on top in one of them and ended up sort of getting a better of a position when Dricus tried to take him down. And still he went for the sweep. He ended up back on top in like mount position almost for a second. And Trevin Giles is a guy who sort of like shut down the grappling game and made it not so dangerous in a fight with a guy like Roman Dolidze, who we just saw what he did to Jack Hermansson in the grappling. So I think his grappling game is very underrated, and that's what he's going to resort to. And I think his stand-up is so dangerous in terms of being able to knock you out cold. I think he's going to be in Till's head. He's going to be swinging bombs, trying to land on Darren Till. Till's going to be so focused trying to time him coming in. And eventually, when Till goes to throw that counter shot in round 2 or 3, or when he goes to maybe block some oncoming shots from Dricus Du Plessis, Du Plessis is going to mix it up, go for a takedown. And once you stick Darren Till to the ground, he seems a bit lost as of what we've seen. And you can talk about injury this and injury that, but the fact is every fighter goes into fights with injuries, and only certain levels of fighters always blame those injuries when they lose. That's just how it is. You know what I mean? And other fighters, they lose all the time, but they're so low down in terms of name value, you don't even hear the list of injuries that they come out with after they lose either. So I don't want to blame this on the injury. I want to just look at what happened in certain fights with Darren Till. Against Kelvin Gastelum, who isn't really a guy who gets great top position anyway, he was able to scramble right back up to his feet after the takedowns. But then I'm looking at guys like Robert Whittaker, who couldn't really keep down Adesanya, who people are saying has a hole in his grappling. Couldn't keep down Israel Adesanya. Whittaker was able to keep him down for like half of the second round after ending up on top of him. So although Darren Till's takedown defense is good, and he stuffed a lot of Whittaker's takedowns as well, once you are on top of him, he doesn't seem to do anything to get himself back up to his feet. And we saw that again against Derek Brunson in his recent fight. Brunson shot 6 takedowns. He only got 3 of them. But out of those 3 takedowns, he had 7.5 minutes of control time. Dominated the first round, dominated the second round, started to be in a bit of a bad situation in round 3, and then eventually ended up on top after Till basically swept Brunson on top of him into full mount and made a really, really bad decision. I think if you give Du Plessis that much time on top of you, he'll figure out something. He's got nukes in his hands. He'll be trying to land those shots as you're trying to get back up anyway. And maybe those are going to start swelling up the eye of Darren Till, as we saw in his Brunson fight as well. He does show up quite a bit in terms of damage on his face whenever he receives it. And his nose was skewered and his eye was swollen up and his orbital was really swelling up and stuff like that. I can see Dricus landing those types of shots. And I can even see Dricus getting Darren Till down. Darren Till trying his hardest to get back up to his feet. And Dricus using that to latch up that famous guillotine that he has. And people that haven't paid attention to Dricus' career, I saw Dricus when he was at KSW because I was paying attention to Roberto Soldich's career when he was coming up as like a younger up-and-comer, because I think he fought at Cage Warriors at one point early on in his career. But Dricus Du Plessis, he's got nasty submission skills. Really, really nasty submission skills. And all I see from Darren Till in terms of the build-up of this fight is him talking about, you know, he's a bit sloppy on the feet. I'll catch him on the feet. He's a striker. And he does have like a, you know, he was in K1. He has a K1 kickboxing style in terms of foundation. But he will go to the ground. You know what I mean? EFC Worldwide, Brendan Lazar, guillotine choke round 1. A couple fights before that, guillotine choke against Yannick Bahati, a physical beast of a guy over at EFC as well. Finished him. Even against Roberto Soldic, there were some moments on the ground between them where they were hitting some sweeps on each other and stuff like that. And then before that in his career, a guillotine choke again against a 7-2 guy. Another guillotine choke before that. A rear naked choke before that. A rear naked choke before that. A rear naked choke before that. And then another 2 rear naked chokes in his first 3 fights in his career. Like, he's got that game. And if you'll notice in these rear nakeds and submission abilities that he has, some of them are in the first round, but what you'll see is, especially earlier on, you start looking at some of these subs, round 2, round 3 as well, like, or late in round 1. So it's always something that he resorts to if his striking isn't working out too well. And I can see his striking not working out too well, and then he just flips that switch. Okay, time to start mixing in some grappling. And I don't see Darren Till dealing with the grappling too well. I don't. He might stuff some takedowns, but the fact is, Dricus Du Plessis is a testosterone-filled man who is in another level in terms of peak athleticism. He's shredded beyond belief. He's got the cardio to push 3 rounds as well, so it's not like there's like a deficit. Maybe there will be if he has a 5-round fight, because in all honesty, I couldn't see him going round 4 after that fight with Brad Tavares. I think he would have really slowed down, and the only reason he could push was because he knew he only had 1 round left to make something happen. But I can definitely see, I mean, Du Plessis is a different level of man than Darren Till. Like, he really is. Like, Till's nickname is the Gorilla. Couldn't think of an animal far from him. You know what I mean? The Gorilla, Darren Till. I just don't see it. He just doesn't. I know he's got abs, and he showed, there was a video of him and Bisping messing around where he showed off the abs. But I'm just thinking like chest genetics, strength of the arms in certain positions here and there. I think Dricus is going to be able to pick him up and dunk him down. And I think that's going to stop the ability of Darren Till. Dricus doesn't really go for like double legs in the open like Kelvin was trying to do on Till, or single legs in the open where Till can fish an underhook and use it to sort of get a sweep off when he hits the ground and end up back on his feet. Dricus will pick you up and dunk you down, and it's on his terms how you land. So I'm going to go over Dricus Du Plessis. Round 2, rear naked choke if he does establish dominance, or catching Darren Till in a guillotine as Till's trying to scramble back up to his feet against a cage. It's going to get messy early on. Till might drop him. Till might have some success. I think the finishing ability is all the way in the favor of Dricus, and he can even get the KO. And the fact that he could even get the KO and Darren Till knows that he has that power, and Dricus throws as crazy as he does, it's going to lift those hands up for Darren Till. It's going to naturally lift those hands up. Against Kelvin, Till doesn't really have to worry about big looping shots over the top. Like, Kelvin's a lot of it straight down the center with a pop 1-2 and stuff like that. So he doesn't really have to worry about really making sure he doesn't get hit with any of those wild overhands that Kelvin's going to go for. And he was able to really patiently edge out that fight and keep his hands down. And similar thing against Whittaker, but eventually as the fight went on, he kept his hands way higher up because Whittaker was starting to have some success there as well. But I just noticed if Till hits the ground for more than 5 seconds, he don't get back up. Saw it against Woodley as well. I know he got dropped, but still, he could get dropped in this fight and end up on the ground. And if Dricus drops him, and if Till drops Dricus, I can see Dricus getting back up and going, oh, fuck, hey, but and getting right back to work. Right back to work, shooting a takedown, trying to make something else happen and surviving in the fight. If Till gets dropped by Dricus, forget about it. He's done. Like, he's going to get subbed or TKO'd to ground and pound. I want Darren Till to win. I think Dricus has got it in the bag. I really do. But maybe he runs into an elbow. And that's something that maybe Darren Till could take advantage of. Maybe Till could step in nice and sharp like he did against Whittaker. Land that elbow as Dricus comes in. Cut him open above the eye. Knock him down really badly, break his jaw, smash his orbital, and really affect how Dricus fights as the fight goes on. I just think Till's got more to worry about. He's got a lot more to worry about. And Dricus empties out the fucking munitions box whenever he's got his opponent up against a cage. But you've also got to watch out for his takedowns when you're up against a cage. And I think he's going to be throwing looping. I think he'll be pressuring Till backwards. Looping shots coming forward. Maybe Till will move out the way of a lot of them. But eventually Till's going to have his hands up against a cage, trying to watch out for what Dricus is going to throw. And then he's going to shoot in afterwards and be able to get him down off pure strength. I'm going with Dricus. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye. And for the winner of this, I hope it's Till. They can take on Marvin Vettori in March. Turn him right back around. Let's get it going. No more time to waste in the middleweight division. We've got a real saving grace here. I think if that's the way you say it. A real message from the gods with Pereira defeating Adesanya and them having to do their rematch, to where we've bought ourselves some time to fix the division in the meantime and start getting some of these contenders to the top. So I say you do Roman Dolidze versus someone ASAP, Derek Brunson maybe. And then you do the winner of this one versus Marvin Vettori. And then one of the winners of those other fights versus the winner of Cannonier versus Strickland. Let's start getting some movement in the middleweight division and start finding some new contenders in the top there. Maybe they move Wonderboy up. There's a bunch of things they could do. Who else is coming up in the middleweight division? Of course, we're not yet thinking about Abbas Magomedov or Bo Nickau or Ikram Aliskerov. They've got a whole year to even get to the position where they're sort of like looking at ranked opponents. But Andre Muniz is coming up the rankings. So I guess they've got to try and find a way to move him up the division and get him against the top contender. So we'll see what they do there. I'm surprised he's not on the Brazil card. In all honesty, I thought he would be. But yeah, that's what we got to do. We got to move up Nasruddin Imavov, who's fighting Kelvin. So if he wins that one, he can take on a top contender. And we've got Till versus Du Plessis. We've got Muniz. Maybe he can take on Hermansson if Hermansson's ready to go straight away because he didn't take much damage. He just got basically subbed to a TKO, essentially. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that we have to sort out in the middleweight division, including getting Roman Dolidze a new fight as well. So let's get rid of the Brunsons. Either rebuild the Vettoris or get rid of them. Get rid of the Darren Tills. Get rid of the loser of Cannonier versus Strickland. Or the winner, regardless. And let's start really shimmying up the division and getting some fresh contenders for the winner of Adesanya versus Pereira too. Like and subscribe, because the worst thing that would happen is Adesanya easily beats Pereira in the rematch. And then we're looking at Whittaker trilogy. Or time for another Cannonier fight. Who's ready for that one? Yeah, I mean, we don't need that. So, hey, maybe Darren Till will be the guy that makes it to the top again. And he can be a fresh contender if he wins this one. I just don't believe in him, man. His chest genetics are... You couldn't have lower tier. Goodbye.